Hey, Father Taylor here, April 26th. Looks like it's going to be a beautiful day here in beautiful downtown Tarryville. And here is your weekly eBlast. A couple of things to go over, some really exciting things. First of all, let's talk about Kateri Medical Missions. The heyday of people coming and going to Kateri was probably, about 5 or 6 years before I got here. And when I got here in 2018, I would say everybody at the time, most everybody knew what Kateri was about. They knew it was a medical mission. They knew that it had to do with a bishop that Father Tom had met and trips that had gone over there. They knew the impact of every dollar. And so we used to have a number of big donors, people who would come and go to over to Nigeria. Fabulous stuff. In 2024, you have to remember that probably only about half of our congregation really remembers those days and are still in touch with the idea of that Kateri Medical Missions is part of the fabric of Trinity Church Tarryville. Why am I telling you all this? Well, because on May 4th and 5th, probably our greatest occasion to come together right here on the campus of Trinity Tarryville to raise money for Kateri Medical Missions. That's when it's happening with the tapestry presentation. It's like a show. I'm telling you, it's a show. The tapestry show that they're going to put on is all done with one goal, and that is to have a great time, to have a great inviting event, inviting people not only to come and to enjoy, but inviting people to come hear a little bit more about the mission, be reminded of the purpose of the mission, of those people who are dealing with no medical services or very little of them in northern Nigeria, and to be able to give toward that. Now, for those of you who are familiar with that, it's a reminder, and hey, come on, let's get involved. And for those who are, this is new, you should come and say, hey, I want another story, because this is a really exciting story that took place right through this very parish. Now, let me tell you some things. The amount of work that goes into putting on that show is, I can't even add up all the hours. And Paula is never going to come and say, like, look at all the work of it. She's never, if you know her, she's never going to say that. But showing up becomes really important. It's important because it simply affirms we see the work you're doing and we appreciate it. It affirms all the work that the singers have gone into. And it affirms that we're a church of which the Kateri Medical Mission and the Africa Education Partnership, those are part of the fabric of what it means to be a member here at Trinity. So 4th and 5th, two different show times. I'm really inviting you to come, just to show up. Even if you, we give every year by mail, fantastic. May the Lord bless you for that. But just come to be a support to all those who put all the work in, and to be a support to our general community. Okay, that's my pitch. I think there's going to be like a great trailer you'll see in a video, but just remember that. And if you're coming, I tell you what, my kids, in their 30s, I can't hardly believe that, but my kids, are not like my generation, and they have different ideals and they see the world happening a little bit different way. But they certainly understand what it means to be that in their lives that they can be a part of the things they believe in, and some of the things that many people in their 20s and 30s believe in, even as you can see in the way they protest, is they want to affect the world. Inviting people in their 20s and 30s to come to this concert is a way of saying you can affect the world today, because if you give $20, 98% of that $20 is going to go to someone, and not just to a thing, but to someone who needs medical attention today. So it is a great invite. Just think about it and make those invitations to get people involved. All right. So that's Kateri. So great. I look forward to seeing you when, and that's in not this weekend, but the next. It's going to be fantastic. All right. Second thing I have to let you know is aside from the return of Jesus, perhaps the thing you've wanted the most for many of you has happened. On Tuesday night, the vestry unanimously voted to accept the proposal from a group that's called Bullock. And what they do is they install and they fix lifts, not elevators, but lifts. What we have is a lift, which is why it's been so difficult to find additional people to come and figure out how to service it. We've had a very frustrating time. A lot of work has gone in. If you haven't heard the story, a lot of work has gone into this. So very frustrating work at times. Some confrontational, argumentative work with people that supposedly were giving our services and weren't. Very difficult. With the help of Kathy Oakes, Jeff Sutton continued to pursue and found this organization, and who's come and made an appraisal of our entire system, the entire, all the electronics, all the wiring, all the tubing is either out of date or ready to go. You mean ready to go, like to be taken out. And so instead of the prior estimate, which was $98,000 by a different group, this group has given us an estimate of roughly $57,000. And the vestry approved to move some monies available, neither of our investment funds, the Henderson Fund or the Brown Fund, and not affecting our operating budget, but they've moved some monies around, particularly with a capital repair fund that we've been trying to build up. And we believe that we can make this repair without asking the congregation for further giving. If you would like to give, if you're like a real believer in the ministry of this lift, this elevator, you are certainly welcome to give. But we are not making an ask at this point. We are going to trust that God has provided for what we've needed and will provide for what we need in the future. And so we've gone ahead, and today we are writing the check for the deposit for that repair. That doesn't mean it's going to come next week, because they have to do a tremendous amount of work of taking things out and then reinstalling basically the inside, that, as you might say, the guts of the system. So anyway, so great news. We've made a decision, and it looks as though with God's help, we will be back in business with that lift, which for many people, that is a tremendous asset in order to be able to get upstairs and to be able to get downstairs to go to choir practice. So that's great, great, great news. Amanda and I have been working for a bunch of hours trying to understand what is our best way to go about Breakfast Alpha this spring and summer. We have certainly looked at more things which we thought were great courses, but they didn't necessarily lend themselves to Breakfast Alpha. And I've got some ideas about that, but we have not settled on one yet. We want to find one that we think is really appropriate for us and is really helpful. And it's not just kind of like that's actually about discipleship. So we're still working on that, but we will still have coffee and refreshments and be able to fellowship. So letting you know about that. One thing I do want to remind you of is coming up on the 11th, we have our retreat. And again, if you're a person who every week watches this video, you know what I'm talking about. We have this worship retreat. And I know that as a churchgoer and even as a priest, it's easy to get into the church service of worship as something we attend and that we take part in without necessarily having much of an expectation that God would do something other than what we logically think is going to happen. Well, worship involves this. It involves suddenly being, in a way, illuminated to see the greatness of God, so that in the presence of God, we bow and worship. All the pictures of worship in the scriptures are always about when people come into God's presence, they don't order coffee. They're all in awe and fear, and they bow before him either with great fear and trembling, or with great praise and adoration. Wouldn't it be wonderful to come to church and be moved to that level of adoration in God's presence? Not obligation, but adoration. So that's what this retreat is about. It's like, how do we adjust our hearts in order to have that? As a result of our worship, God speaks. And imagine also coming to a service in which you would feel not only just moved in the presence of God, like my worship lady behind us, but you would feel not just moved, but that you would hear God speaking to you, calling you, giving you the advice you need, or directing you in some kind of way. How do you get to that kind of worship? But that's what this event is going to be about, May 11th. Now, I've told you I'm opening the doors at 8:30. I'll still be running around making coffee, but you can come at 8:30 and I will have some refreshments there and you can kind of linger and hang out and talk to friends and all that stuff. The actual retreat starts at 9 o'clock. And we will finish up just before lunch. So you're home for lunch on this retreat. I think it's going to be not just good, but I think it's going to be important in what God is doing in our community recently. And if you haven't been in or around our church, maybe other than Sunday, man, God is doing some really things which would remind us, which would alert us to God being extremely present by His Spirit of late. So very exciting stuff. So that's coming up. So I think that's all I have today. So look forward to seeing you this Sunday. Continue to pray that God would pour out His Spirit upon us. I've got a ministry assignment this morning for a memorial service up in Northampton. And so I'd ask your help because it's going to be a hard one. So God bless you, and we hope to see you this weekend.